you on Zillow?
Was I on Zillow? What happened?
Nothing. I knew the question you were going to ask me.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure.
Have you ever had an agent come into your office and say, oh my God, someone just tore me apart on Zillow, Google. What can I do? What can I do? Who can you call? We need to get this erased.
Yes. Yes, I have. And my first piece of advice is embrace it.
Don't panic.
Yes, don't panic. And
It's hard to do, but.
Sometimes. I guess partly it depends on what the review is and whether it's like real or legit. That would be my first thing. Well, is there some truth to what they said?
All right, so let's do that. Let's go back. Let's take a step back. We panic, an agent panics. What's the first word of advice? Or what's the first step?
My first step is read the review, see what it says, and if there's some truth to it, take some ownership.
Assess the review.
Yeah.
Do we know who it came from? Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't.
Correct.
Is it honest?
Yeah.
Is it not honest? I think we need to assess that before we can say where to go, right?
And I'd be careful with if it's not honest, because I think there's two categories. Sometimes we have people that are just have it out for you, that, you know, competitor or whatever the case, and they're making fake profiles and doing whatever it is that they're doing. But sometimes it is a past client that's written something, and you may not agree with what they're saying, but they've revealed who they are. They truly did have a transaction with you, and those are their thoughts, whether you agree with them or not.
They're revealing something to us or the agent, right? Two sides to every story.
Exactly. So you have to take a step back. But once you've reviewed everything, reach out.
I think that's a good step.
Yeah. Pick up the phone. Travis, I got the review. First of all, thank you very much for taking my call, but I'm here to make it better. What went wrong? Tell me more about what happened. And I'll say this here's what not to do. Hey, Travis, I got the review. You were wrong. This is really what happened. Blah, blah, blah.
You can't go. Do not be defensive.
Exactly. You can't be defensive. You have to be at a place of trying to learn from the situation, trying to get more information.
Humble.
Exactly. And you do that by asking questions.
And I don't think there's one person in this world where that's not a very uncomfortable thing to do, to call this individual, right?
Correct.
Just to put it out there right up front. No one exists that's like, sure, give me the phone, let me do this. No. It's gonna feel like 1,000 pounds picking up that phone. But I would say 90% or better. Not only is it gonna help the situation, but it's gonna relieve you of a tremendous amount of stress.
Absolutely. So after that, respond to the review.
Correct.
And I personally say contact them first and have a conversation with them, assuming that they'll have a conversation with you, and see what's going on, and then put your response in. Because then you're kind of, this response sounds better. It was good to talk to you on the phone and work this out, Travis, and then be able to say what I want to say on that, versus just coming right out and saying my thoughts, or saying whatever it is that we say. If we're showing that we actually care about the situation, which most people should. I mean, if you got a bad review and you don't care, you should care. So we're kind of showing that in our response. Now, the other thing that I also say is when you're calling, had this one once, 1-star review. Called up the person, what happened? I gave you 1 star. I just hit the star button. They didn't understand the concept of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. They were perfectly happy with everything that had happened, and they just didn't understand the platform and how to actually write a review.
Yeah.
So, apologized, went in and corrected it and changed it. So, sometimes we jump to conclusions, and that was just human error.
Well, or I read one recently, it was 4 stars. I thought, oh, what happened here? Because everybody expects 5 stars these days. And literally the first sentence was, one of the best meals of my life. And I was like, okay, that's just how that person is.
Exactly.
Like, you got to be Michelin 3-star for them to even get close to 5 stars for you.
Correct.
So it was a great review, but they weren't going to get 5 stars.
It's their perspective, we go to a Michelin star restaurant and we have a dining experience that's exceptional, and we go to, I don't know, McDonald's, and everybody's like super friendly in there and we just had a good experience, it's still not the same. But if that's how we're treating every dining experience, yeah, this one's not going to be. But at the same time, sometimes we walk into this, we have our expectations. We were both just in Vegas last week, and I was telling you, I was 5-star review after 5-star review after 5-star review, and I went to Vegas because we were there in December, and I didn't like the service we got. I didn't like the food that we had. I was like bah humbug Joe complainer about everything, and I didn't write bad reviews on them, but it wasn't a pleasant experience. Everything from the hotel just not being as attentive as I was looking for, to the restaurants we chose and the food, and it just wasn't there. It was missing the mark. It wasn't even got off the plane. We got to the terminal, and the first guy was like, happiest guy I've ever run into to get on a plane, and he made me feel good about getting on the airplane. And it was a bumpy ride. You were traveling around the same time because of the weather, and that the pilot came out before we even got off the ground, and he said, "Hey, this is what to expect in this flight because of the weather." Perfect. And this is what's going to happen. Here's the downside of that. It's going to be a bumpy road, but we also had a big tailwind. So he said the good news is we're only going to be in the air like 30 minutes. And then he chimed in a couple more times when we were in flight. He wasn't giving us good news. It's going to be a bumpy road. We got bad weather.
He set you at ease.
Yeah, but it was still a pleasant experience. Then I think we ran into the best cab driver in all of Vegas. It was just boom after boom after. Got to the front desk. We got upgraded to a penthouse with no questions asked. I'm all like, the heck happened? And I got this guy ringing the doorbell, bringing me slippers and robes and all. I'm like, holy cow! Did they get my message from last time? I don't know what's happening here. But sometimes, and yes, I am writing 5-star reviews on that, but I also look at it as part of the reason I was so happy was my expectations were actually pretty low, because I was in Vegas recently, and it was a completely different situation. Yeah. So I was walking into that with, hey. So anyway, I think I went off on a tangent.
Well, it's the mentality of people and how they give reviews, and there's a lot of that to it. So definitely got to take it with a grain of salt, correct, right? It's kind of like the door knocking thing. Sometimes you're going to knock on a door, and no fault of your own, that person is really going to give it to you.
Yep.
And they may apologize the next day, but if they left a review that day, you're going to get a bad one because they were in a bad mood.
I saw that happen 2 weeks ago. So, gosh, I'm just full of stories today. 2 weeks ago, agent came into the office and said, "I cannot believe this. I just got off the phone with this guy, and he reamed me a new one." And I said, "Well, what happened?" I was just telling him this, and he wouldn't even let me talk, and he started yelling at me. And been working with this client for months, never seen anything like it. Give it 24 hours, let it blow over. Sure enough, call the next day, his brother had passed away.
Oh, wow.
That day. She happened to just call at a time where he had other stuff going on, and that's how he presented it, and it was what it was. So at the time, you were given bad service at that particular time because you were at the wrong place at the wrong time. Sometimes it just happens. So.
Very true.
All right, so got a bad review, acknowledge it.
Read it. I'm going to say, step away, take a deep breath, because, responding within 24 hours is not a big deal. You don't need to respond immediately to these reviews.
Correct.
Right?
Well, semi-immediately. Yeah. I would respond to it. I wouldn't go more than a day and a half, 2 days.
Yeah. But read it, walk away. Maybe go talk to someone about it, work through it a little bit. And then see if it's appropriate to contact them, which most times it is. Reach out, leave a message, talk to them. Hey, just want to see what's going on. Feel like I was in a different transaction than you, but no, you don't want to say that. Never be defensive.
It's hard to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So never go in there and react real quick with some sort of defensiveness, because they got their story and they're going to stick to it.
Yep.
And then respond to that review. And I loved your suggestion of saying, hey, Bob, really appreciate the opportunity to be able to get on the phone with you after I saw this review. Appreciate the conversation. I understand what your concerns were.
Right.
And glad we could work that out. And then I know now that things are right. Wish they could have been that way from the get-go.
Yep.
But I'm glad I had the opportunity to make them right in the end.
Whatever, exactly.
Golden.
And here's part two of, you search anything and you see nothing but 5-star reviews. Do you have doubt?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's a good point.
So I don't care where you go, whatever it is that you're doing, you see the perfect. Listen, agents, when I look at your reviews and I see that you are publicizing that you have 250 5-star reviews and they're all 5-star reviews, I'm calling you out. I don't know if that's really doable. At least it's creating doubt in my mind. I'm looking at these and I'm starting to scrutinize. I'm probably scrutinizing those more of, what's in here? Does this look like it was written by somebody else? Is it fake? Whatever. And same thing, don't get me wrong, same thing restaurant. You go to a restaurant, you can tell when they hired 10 people in the staff or whatever to go in there and write a review.
Well, let me tell you what I do. I go in, I'm very suspicious of really high ratings. I like it in the 4s,
Right.
Mid, it was nice. But I always open them up. I open up the reviews, and I want to read 4 or 5 of the good ones, and then I go straight to the bottom, and I want to read those. Because a lot of times it's like, they gave him a 1, this was not fair. I'm not even going to count that.
Right.
And if I go to 2 or 3, 4 reviews with a 1 star, and I feel like they're not legit, that changes my mind.
Absolutely.
But I could go there and there are 4 1-star ratings that are unresponded to or snarkily responded to and are legitimate things. I go, wow, I could really see that happening in a restaurant. That's going to carry a lot of weight with my decision.
Absolutely. Give you a little insider tip. This is for the agents going the other way. You get a phone call, you're working with somebody, don't be afraid to look them up and see what kind of reviews that they write before you get started with them and know
can
where
do
you're
that.
going. You absolutely can do that, because there are people out there that just, they want to throw a bunch of 1-stars out there, and I'm not saying don't work with them. I'm just saying know ahead of time what you're getting into, because you could probably eliminate some of those problems and things like that, just understanding where they're coming from the very beginning. So, yeah,
Very good.
it's my little 2 cents.
Yeah, it's been a while since we talked about reviews. I know for a while there, they were like wildly talked about and seemed like the end of the world. And they've kind of worked themselves through the system, and now they're useful. Don't seem as problematic as they were, although, you still got to be very conscious of what's going on out there.
You do. My biggest beef with reviews nowadays is they don't talk to each other. We can't go to a client and say, hey, review, and then, there are so many different platforms now that to get reviews on. So that could be another episode. What's the most, where should I have my reviews? Coming up on next week's episode.
There you go.
So, all right. Anyway, hopefully that helped everybody. And if you like what you're hearing, write us a good review.
Yes.
You can put it in the comments. You don't have to give us 5 stars on Google or anything, but you put it in the comments. And if you don't, you can give us a thumbs down. I'll respond back to that.
Subscribe, like,
Subscribe,
hit the little bell.
Thumb up, thumb down.